I have just a couple of items here, and some of these came from Sandy, who is sitting way back there, and promised me that if I'm inaccurately reporting something off this list, she will slap me in the head and correct it. First of all, we have a new form on the program pages in Moodle. It's the site request form. And this form is for any sort of special equipment, AV equipment you may need for your classroom. If you need to change, if you need a computer lab for one particular class or something, or there's some other problem with the room, there's a form now in Moodle on the program page that you can fill out. The results of that form go directly into a system so that Sandy can address it, and it gets forwarded to the person at the college or location that we need to interact with. So and it's pretty concise, and you know, there's some check boxes here and there, but there's lots of room for plain language as well, so that you can really say specifically exactly what you're looking for. And I will mention that I've been guilty of this in the past as well, where you know, on your way to your room, you walk by an empty room that's the chairs are more comfortable, they've got better whiteboards, everything is nicer. So, and you notice when you hit that first break that nobody's using it, so you just say to your class, come on, let's go down the hall. The problem with doing that is occasionally a security guard or someone walks by, notices that that class is now being used, reports it up the chain, and we end up getting billed for both the room you're not using and the room you've moved to. So I sympathize with why you might want to move, but we have to do all this officially, and we're more than willing to react, especially if you have a room where there's some real issues. We're paying rent at these locations, so if you have a problem, we will address it with our landlords. Let's see. We've also, as far as books go, your desk reference copies for classes. We've addressed this in past workshops, but just to reiterate, if you go to the program page in Moodle, DVZV 2009, for those military people, that's Delta Victor Zulu Victor 2009, you will find, for the course you're teaching, a link to the publisher for the textbooks for that course. Most of our publishers have a service where you can get a desk reference copy. So that's your first choice. Then you have your book, you can highlight it, mark it all up, it's yours to keep. If that book for some reason is unavailable, either the publisher doesn't have that service, then your next choice could be to borrow it from this library. And this library has 3 copies of every book that we're using in any ASAP program. At least they have it in their inventory. If you don't return it, when you're done with it, that's one less copy they're going to have. So just like your public library, please, if you do borrow those books, return them. You can renew them. You can take them out for 6 weeks to start with, but there's no problem with renewing those.
90 days.
Oh, 90 days. I stand corrected. I'll fix that. 90 days, but there's no problem renewing that book. But remember, that's a library book, so don't bother writing in the margins or anything like that. If that's not an option for you, then as an instructor, I feel for you, but the other option is to buy the book. Personally, I tend to do that because I like to scribble in the margins anyway. And yes, I know that that's an expense, but our goal, aside from delivering the best education we can to our students, one other important goal is to keep that education accessible and affordable. And wherever we can cut costs, we do. And we try not to cut costs with the money we pay you, but there are other places where we have to. Also, The way the help desk works, each one of us in the WODI office has the phone, one out of every 5 days, one out of every 5 weekends. So we get to be intimately familiar with some of our students and some of our instructors who are really struggling with technology through no fault of their own. They just haven't been exposed to it. We've talked about this, and the state not only agrees, but strongly agrees that if we're going to accept people without some sort of an entrance exam on computer literacy, then it's up to us to bring students and faculty up to an acceptable level. So what we have done, I just finished teaching a computer course on campus, a basic computer course on campus, 15 weeks. I've distilled that down to a 3.5-hour seminar that talks about, it starts with some really basic things, like when you hit the save button, where does the file go? And there are lots of us out there who really don't know because, well, it goes in My Documents. Well, what if you don't want it in My Documents? What if you're downloading something from online? Where does that go? We're going to start with real basics like that and then talk about internet basics. What's the difference between a download and an upload, and why do you care? What's the difference between a browser and an email application? Why should you care? Those sorts of things. And then work into some basic functionality in Microsoft Word, including tracking changes, and PowerPoint. We won't get into Excel or Access, but in this short amount of time. And we'll also spend some time talking about some basics in Moodle. So if you feel you can benefit from that course, I don't have the schedule yet. I can tell you that the first one will probably be April 17th. Don't know where yet, but we're planning on one workshop Saturday morning from 9 till 1 o'clock at each of our technically they're not branch campuses, but each of the community colleges or any other location we have that has a computer lab where we can do this. It'll be hands-on. We'll have handouts for you, and hopefully we'll have videos to reinforce and back up what you learn there. So that's, I think that'll be a big help. And as I said, no need for embarrassment. You might have a student on one side of you and a more senior or a more senior instructor on the other side of you. But we're all going to try to get up to a certain level so that none of us are going to be struggling. Joanne?
John, what about, is this for students?
Students and instructors, yes.
I really appreciate that because the online classes, and you get students for the first class that have not a clue how to use a computer, it is just a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
Well, and it's, I mean, I'd love to say it's totally altruistic, but we're the guys on the helpline, and, you can only do so much over the phone, so we're hoping that this will cut down on our calls as well. We also introduced to our online orientation a computer literacy test. So obviously the students that can't even figure out how to get to online orientation, we already know they're a problem. But those that manage to get that far, when they take this test, depending on how they score, they either get results that say you'll be fine in the program, or you might want to consider watching these tutorials or going to the linked tutorials that we have on the Moodle help page. And then finally, if they do, I think if they score below 70, it says a student services representative will be in touch with you to discuss your options. And we're not averse to doing one-on-one training in extreme situations. It's just a schedule issue, how we work that out.